As Earth's magnetic field weakens, there's a greater and greater chance that the sun is going to take out power to the world before the actual magnetic pole flip, solar micronova, and the world turning over.
And you have now the accepted view, which was not accepted only 10 or 5 years ago, that the terrestrial axis moved, and that paleomagnetism proves us that terrestrial axis, that magnetic axis, and possibly like Runcorn and other of Manchester, claim that the Earth turned over.
Einstein had moved past the question of whether or not the Earth turned over, and died unsatisfied in his late life passion to discover why it did so. To alter the Earth's axis, his best option had been Greenland, gaining so much ice during an ice age that its weight pulled the crust over to where Greenland spun at the equator. His problem was that would take an unimaginable amount of snow and ice, but he never imagined there might be other ways to unlock the crust from the mantle. The now famous Chan-Thomas version of the disaster puts the new pole positions in the same places that would match with the Greenland tilting to the equator scenario. This tilt here, which will send water up into the eastern part of America, Western Africa, and the UK. You could be looking at a decade, no power, no supplies, shiz hits the fan scenario before the really bad stuff happens. This tilt here. And so population density is probably your most important and critical thing to understand there. After that, let's go ahead and draw a little blue line on here, and here we're going to be talking about the before. It would be a real struggle in the summertime without AC. During the disaster, and this is when, the vast majority of the survivors of that first little part, even if we get 10 years of no power and no industrialized society, before the zenith of the disaster, during the disaster is, of course, when an enormous portion is going to fall. And here, this is where the elevation matters most. Don't forget, this round, the waters around North America are going to be moving northward, and so you've got the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic absolutely ready to batter the eastern part of the country here. It's going to be really, really rough. I don't have much faith in the Appalachians this time being able to do anything differently, especially when you consider the fact that they are also an enormous population zone. If we pull this back up, you can see that really doesn't help to be in Appalachia when this thing goes down. There's just too many people in this area. And again, as I said, I don't think it's going to make it with the tsunamis. The tsunamis are pretty bad. You can see here, a lot of people talk about the Ozarks, which is that mound right there around Missouri. The Ozarks are not my favorite. We're going to draw another little line on this map here. This would be the new Valley of the Sun. If you wanted to get technical about it, you could maybe extend the blue line a little bit further north and a little bit further south. But in general, this is where you want to be. You want to be high enough on the eastern range there that the waters are going to miss you, especially from the Gulf of Mexico. You don't necessarily want to be at the highest elevations because they have a pretty good chance of being too cold. And in the after, these are going to be at roughly the same latitude that they are now, just in the southern hemisphere, and we don't expect the weather to be too terrible. Again, for the northern part of this blue line here, the new Valley of the Sun, your main concern is, can you handle the weather in wintertime for 10 years with no electricity? If that answer is yes, this is the new Valley of the Sun, and this is by far the best place to be in the Americas.